Thank you. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
How is everybody today?
Awake and ready.
Yay, it's a joy to be here with all of you. I'd like to begin with a reading from Whispers from Eternity. This is Yogananda's book of prayer demands and poems. And this is a short one, but mighty. It's number 84. And it's called The Special Universal Daily Demand for Divine Guidance. O Father, Mother, Friend, Beloved God, I will reason, I will act, I will, but guide Thou my reason, will, and activity to the right thing I should do in everything. So, our topic this morning, I thought I would read a story that I have. I don't want to call it a bedtime story because I don't want you guys to fall asleep. But remember the affirmation on power. But this is a wonderful story. It's called King Janaka's Enlightenment. I don't think I need that. So the scriptures say that real enlightenment can happen in the time that it would take for a good horseman who already has one foot in the stirrup to mount his horse. In a fraction of a second, you can experience the truth. King Janaka wanted to get that kind of enlightenment, so he invited all of the saints, all of the sages, all of the learned and wise people who could help him have that experience come to his court. Many people came and quoted all the scriptures, but still Janaka didn't get the experience he was seeking. One day a saint by the name of Ashtavarka came to the area, and he asked Janaka to tell him what he had read. And King Janaka said, well, the scriptures say that if I am a good rider, and if I stand with one foot in the stirrup, by the time I throw the other leg across the horse, I should get enlightened. All right, said Ashtavarka, we will follow the scripture exactly. Come on, bring me a horse. Okay, good, now stand next to the horse like that. Are you ready? Yes, I'm all ready, said King Janaka. Well, good. But now, did you read the verse before that one in the scripture? What was the previous verse? The previous verse said that when you hear the utterance, the instruction, you get enlightened. Well, and what was that qualification given for hearing the instruction? The scripture said sannyasam, or renunciation. By renouncing everything, you become fit to hear the truth. Oh, so you read that, okay? Having read that, are you ready? Have you renounced everything? Oh, said King Janaka, I'm so sorry I haven't done that. Well, then how can you get enlightened? You must renounce everything that you would call yours. Or in other words, remove yourself from all these identifications. I am the king, I am the man, I am this, I am that. Separate yourself from all this. You can give it all to me. It will be your offering to the Guru. Just give them all, one by one. Okay, agreed Janaka. I am giving my kingdom to you. I am giving my body. I am giving my intelligence. I am giving my ego. Then Ashtavarka said, are you ready to listen to the truth? But there was no answer. He couldn't even hear what the teacher was saying. Janaka just stood there without even saying, yes, sir. Actually, even to say he stood there is wrong. The body stood there. He had completely removed himself from all these identifications. He became the pure I, that's all. So at that point, Ashtavarka said, okay, now that you have given up everything, you are just the pure I. But unfortunately, as the pure I, you are fit for nothing. The spirit needs a body, a mind, and an intellect in order to function. Even to hear me, you need to have a little ego in the sense of hearing. So I give that back to you. But remember, you gave everything to me, and I am giving it back to you. It's not yours. I'm simply lending it to you. Now make use of your body and mind and jump onto the horse. And as he was jumping, Ashtavarka said, "Thou art that. You are that supreme bliss. You are that supreme peace. You are that Brahman." And in an instant, King Janaka realized the truth. The end. So Yogananda identified the ego as the soul simply identified with the body, the soul in a state of limited thinking, a limited sense of self. I am short, I am tall, I am rich, I am poor. And then what happens? We respond to the ego and we try and get those outer conditions just right. But no matter how we try, it's hard to get them right. I was thinking of the story of the man that was in a restaurant and he complained to the waiter. He said, "Waiter," he says, "it's too hot in here. Can you turn the air conditioner up?" And it wasn't too long, a little bit later, he says, "Waiter, it's too cold in here. Can you turn the air conditioner down?" And so this went on and off, up and down for about an hour. And there was a customer at a nearby table and he was watching this whole scenario. So he finally calls the waiter over and he says, "Hey, why are you putting up for all of this? Why don't you just ask him to leave?" And the waiter just, he smiles very calmly. He says, "I really don't mind. We don't even have an air conditioner." And remembering that egoic approach, it just never works, right? No matter how hard we try to get it right, we always fall just a little bit short. I have a little story on myself. When we first moved up here, it'll be almost 10 years in January. It's hard to believe, time flies. But I have one friend from high school from New York City that I stay in touch with, and she lives up in Washington. And I invited her to come down to Portland and spend the day with me. And being good city girls, we decided we're going to bop around the city of Portland. So we decide to go to the Portland State Farmers Market first. And she's in the car with me, and we're needing to find a parking space. Well, you can, many of you have probably gone to farmers markets. They're pretty busy. There's activity and all that. So as we're getting closer to PSU, Portland State, I'm thinking to myself, okay, am I going to get a parking space? Well, lo and behold, there's a parking space that opens up right in front of the farmer's market. And my friend is amazed. She goes, "Wow, I can't believe that happened." And here I'm thinking I can impart some spiritual wisdom. I say, "Oh, it's my good parking karma." And so she was very interested in that and very impressed. So we go and do our shopping. Well, then we decide to go under, is it the Burnside Bridge, where they have that nice outdoor gift fair? So we go over there, and of course it's really busy. And we're driving around, and I can't find a parking space. And I'm getting a little, agitated. And she goes, "What's the matter? What happened to your good parking karma?" It just never lasts as long as you think it's going to last. It's just... And it's never good enough. I have a story. I used to be in the human resources field. I used to hire and unfortunately also let people go. But there was this human resource person that was interviewing a recent college graduate. And she said, "Well, what are you looking for in terms of a salary?" And this young college graduate said, "Well, anything in the range of $125,000 a year would be just fine, but depending on the benefits package." And the HR person says, "Well, how about 2 weeks paid vacation, 12 holiday days paid, full dental, medical, retirement planned, and let's just say maybe even a car, a fancy red Corvette, company car at least every 2 years." And all of a sudden the young man sits up, he goes, "Wow, are you kidding?" And the HR person says, "Yeah, but you started it." It's never enough. And remembering that God is the doer. It's that fine line between us acting and God acting, right? It's a very, very fine line. I love the story that Swami Kriyananda used to tell. He's no longer with us in the body. He passed last April. But he would tell the story of when he was standing to give a Sunday service, and he decides, okay, he's going to let God talk. And all of a sudden he stops talking, which I don't think is possible for an Italian, but that's a little side note. But he stops talking, and he's waiting for God to talk, and God doesn't talk. God didn't talk. I mean, we can't be passive. in this. We need to be dynamically involved. What's the affirmation for today? It's on power. It's not like, oh, mañana, no, mañana. It's not like another day. It's right now. We need to fully engage ourselves and then ask for God to come and join us. It's a two-way. Neither one works by themselves. Right? It's two-way. We need to, again, actively engage, invite God to come up and do this with us. So how do we do this? Diva was talking about that second chant that we chant. It's such a beautiful chant. We need to fill our thoughts. We need to fill our consciousness with what? With the Spirit of God. What is God? Love, joy, peace, all those qualities. It's not a great Corvette. It's not a great job. It's not a great parking space. If we fill ourselves with those thoughts of God, they are God-reminding activities. Every time we give to somebody, every time we offer a helping hand, every time we smile, every time we offer a kind word, we're expanding past that sense of who we are, because we're not those judgments. We're not those, oh, that was a terrible parking space, or you're too tall, or you're not rich enough. We're none of those identifications, and we're trying to break through that. But we need to add our own power. We need to add our energy. Diva mentioned meditation technique, Hong Sa. We focus on the mantra, I am spirit, I am he. Another technique that we learn is we learn the energization exercises. That's one of the first things we learn when we share the teachings of the art and science of Raja Yoga, because we're learning how to draw in. When we do the energization, we're drawing in that cosmic energy, drawing in energy greater than who we are, and we're channeling it using our power, using our will. We're channeling that energy out, energizing the different parts of our body, awakening ourselves to who we really are. So it's a wonderful topic, this ego, friend or foe. It sounds like the challenge. Ego, friend or foe, what is the answer? You know, it's both. Obviously from our story from King Janaka, our story today, it's both. But we need to remember to awaken ourselves up to that power. We have to lend our energy, lend the power of the universe is mine, for its wealth is energy. I am energy. So remembering to awaken to that. So I think would you like to share? I think I'll let Diva share a little bit. God bless you all. Thank you.
Well, good morning, everybody. If we're going to talk parking and ego, friend or foe, the problem is we have a wrestling match, and the person was driving along late, very late for an appointment, and it was a critical appointment. It affected the trajectory of their lives, the successful fulfillment of the appointment. They couldn't find a parking place, and around they went, and finally started praying in desperation, Lord, if you give me a parking place, I will I will give my life to you, I'll behave, I'll do anything it takes. And sure enough, car starts pulling out, and as the person pulled in, says, never mind, I found one myself. The little boy was, he wanted a bicycle more than anything, and he didn't come from a wealthy family. And he was praying, and he thought, Lord, he was talking to Jesus, because he was, that was his connection to spirit. And he said, Jesus, if you will get me that bicycle, I'll be good for a whole week. And he kind of sat there for a minute. He knew that wasn't enough. So he prayed again. He said, Jesus, if you'll get me that bicycle, I'll obey my parents for a whole year. And he thought about it, and he realized that might be enough, but he could never do it. And so he was just sitting there. He was getting a little depressed, and he didn't know what to do. So all of a sudden, an inspiration hit him. Meditate. Inspiration hits. He jumped up, ran upstairs. He took a beautiful statue of Mother Mary that had been on his mother's dresser, and he carefully lifted it off, and he wrapped it in a beautiful blanket, and he put it in a box, and he put it up on the highest shelf that he could find in the darkest little corner. And he went back down and sat down and started praying. He said, Lord, if you ever want to see your mother again, We got to want it. And then we have to offer ourselves into it. The problem we have is that our experience of ourselves isn't satisfying. It's just not enough. The reason we come to the path is because it's not satisfying, it's not enough. Before you come to the path, you have, the animals don't have a highly developed sense of self-identity, of ego. The plants certainly don't. The rocks don't. It's an evolutionary process, and we move from less and less awareness to increasing awareness. We move through the soul moves to the states of being inert and rock-like into the plant world, where we become more aware, and then into mobility, the mobility and movement and self-expression that animals can actually have. But even within that, there isn't a whole lot of individual identity. It's not until we hit the human stage that that sense of self starts to grow. And it's a good thing. It's a part of how we evolve. It's a necessary and essential thing that we become very strong in our self-identity. Because you can't give something you don't already own. You can't give yourself the experience of oneness that we're seeking isn't the experience of oneness that the animals and the plants and the rocks have. Because they have that experience, they don't feel identified, but they're not awake in it. They don't feel the joy of God. They're not aware moment by moment of the power of divine love flowing through and the creativity. And so we have to awaken. And what happens is we awaken and we discover that this is pretty compelling story. We use this and then we satisfy it. And then we look around and go, is that it? And by the time you're sitting in this room, clearly the answer is no. And God responds. He brings us masters who tell us how to get outside the box of the ego, how to expand our consciousness so that our experience of ourselves and our experience of life is more satisfying. It's just that simple. Ego, friend or foe, the greatest enemy for every one of us is ego. But ego in the sense of self-identity limited by the body, limited by the personality, by the mind. I've got a wonderful friend. We've been friends for 25 years, and she was very, very proud of herself, pleased with herself. We used to meditate here years ago. We would meditate often, just the two of us. Every Saturday morning we had a 3-hour meditation, and often it was just the two of us. But invariably the two of us would show up, and we'd have this beautiful meditation. But just one of the things that she was still stuck with was she identified herself through her intellect, through her skills, her talents, her mental ability. And in the course of time, what happened was those things disappeared. The capacity to be mentally agile, to communicate, to hold herself aloof disappeared. And you can either think that God is a terrible and merciless punster and unkind and inconsiderate, or you can understand that life is designed to help us outgrow the limitations. Those very assertions that she had of who she was were the very things that were keeping her from experiencing who she really was. They have to be taken away. Everything has to be taken away. But God won't take it unless we give it. Somebody came to Swami Kriyananda and said, I'm scared of the path because God takes everything from us. And Swami said very, very earnestly and very seriously, he says, no, God doesn't take anything from us. He asks everything of us. We have to give it. We have to offer it. It will disappear anyway, just in the course of time. You don't get to go out with a clear mind and a strong body, and unless you go out real early, and then it's still over. But nothing goes with you. Nothing goes with you. Because those things aren't who we are. We are the flow of divine love. We are divine joy. We are freedom. We're that power, that grace. This playing out in this little tiny role to have these fun little events, and then we go on, we leave this behind. This is an attribute of the soul. We're going to do a little chant. And I'm going to ask everybody who knows this to please jump in. This chant requires a lot of energy to carry well. But if it carries well, it is remarkably powerful. This is Swami Ramtirtha's chant. If you don't know it, it is number 62 in your chant book. This is the words and poem of a great and powerful Swami, put to music by and interpreted by Paramahansa Yogananda. But God expresses in 8 ways, and for Swami Ramtirtha, it was power. It was one of the most prevalent expressions of spirit. And so this chant and this, the tenor of this comes from that. I come, O blazing light, the shadows must flee. I come, O blazing light, the shadows must flee. Hail, O ye oceans, divide up and part. Hail, O ye oceans, divide up and part. For parched up ye, scorched up ye, dried up depart. For parched up ye, scorched up ye, dried up depart. None can atone me, say, who would injure me. None can atone me, say, who would injure me. Beware all ye mountains, stand not in my way. Beware all ye mountains, stand not in my way. Your ribs will be shattered and tattered today. Your ribs will be shattered and tattered today. Friends and counselors, pray waste not your breath. Friends and counselors, pray waste not your breath. Take up my orders, devour up ye death. Take up my orders, devour up ye death. None can atone me, say, who would injure me. None can atone me, say, who would injure me. Ride on the tempest, astride on the gale. I ride on the tempest, astride on the gale. My gun is the lightning, my shots never fail. My gun is the lightning, my shots never fail. I chase as a huntsman, I eat as I seize. I chase as a huntsman, I eat as I seize. Trees and the mountains, the land and the seas. Trees and the mountains, the land and the seas. None can atone me, say, who would injure me. None can atone me, say, who would injure me. I hitch to my chariot the fates and the gods. I hitch to my chariot the fates and the gods. In the voice of thunder proclaim it abroad. In the voice of thunder proclaim it abroad. Howl, O ye winds, blow, bugles blow free. Howl, O ye winds, blow, bugles blow free. Liberty, 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 oh. Liberty, 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 oh. None can atone me, say, who would injure me. None can atone me, say, who would injure me. None can atone me, say, who would injure me. None can atone me, say, who would injure me. I hitch to my chariot the fates and the gods. I hitch to my chariot the fates and the gods. In the voice of thunder proclaim it abroad. In the voice of thunder proclaim it abroad. Howl, O ye winds, blow, bugles blow free. Howl, O ye winds, blow, bugles blow free. Liberty, 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 oh. 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 Feel the courage awakening within you, the power to break free of all bondage, all limitation, all pettiness, into the free movement of spirit through you, and then outward in blessing to everyone. We'll have music.